Honorable sisters, brothers, and friends, this is a review of August 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, 2014. State of the World, Part 2. Other beginning and so forth you have to reference and find. Now, start with the discipline of social science. That is, at least groups and nations as they are as a social unit. And that is where you get then someone who becomes a leader of that group or nation. And where the people vote for that leader, they say that's a democratic way of doing it by majority who voted. If it isn't one of two they can only vote for, as is practically the policy for years, practically over at least 2 centuries now in the USA. So most of the time you're hoping to pick the lesser of the two, especially since the assassination of President Kennedy, the lesser of two evils. I'm going to tell the true facts, whether anybody likes it or not. I'm only concerned about one judge. The others are, from the point of view of theology, not religion, point of view of theology, not that important. Point of view of religion is significant. These are the true facts, whether anybody likes it or not. Social science has become ever and ever where the U.S. wants to dominate through what Patton said. The world will be speaking English. We will dominate. And the U.S. says, well, with our dollar, they print this money. You think about it. Why does a country like Argentina, will say, have to try to do business with U.S. dollars internationally? They say, well, we print our money and they won't accept it. It's printed money. And in Brazil, now I've been to Brazil and I've been to Argentina. In one day, the inflation was staggering. They print the money, but you can combine the debt of Argentina and Brazil, and I think it's the entire world, and they're not as much in debt as the U.S. is in debt. I think that's an actual true fact. Why do I want to need, I have to accept, or especially want to need this printed money? It's printed on the best paper and in the best possible way. That's one of its values, is that it's difficult to counterfeit. But still, I'm talking about a national system. Why, if I have a national system, I print my money in my national bank, and that's the money of the land. And that's the money another nation accepts. I don't need their gosh damn dollar to dominate what I have to do. What kind of nonsense is that? That I have to buy their printed money in order to function as a national economy. I couldn't believe it. They had people dying, injured, working 7 days a week, long hours, grueling conditions to mine gold, to send it to the U.S., and the U.S. would print their dollars and send it back to them. And I was told, it's forbidden to use gold here. It's dollar. The dollar is dominant. Do you understand how incomprehensible, how foolish you left those crooks, those murderers of Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, of Bobby Kennedy, of crippling Governor George Wallace, who would have won. Any of them that were any good were killed or taken out so that they could have the King George, who said, well, we're connected with royalty with England, have the Anglo-U.S. King George, Queen Hoover, not democracy, hypocrisy. That's the state of the world today. You have the Anglo-U.S. want to dominate and are, especially with their dollar dominance. And you have Japan. Now you notice the island of England off the continent. They have to use a navy and wheel and deal, and they went out and planted a flag. This is ours. What do you mean now? That belongs to the natives. The native Palestinians own Palestine. The Jews came from Egypt to Sinai for about 40 years, and then say there's a better place. We're up there. And that was the indigenous Palestinians. I sometimes felt alone in saying if there's no Palestine, there can't be an Israel, because they are the indigenous people. Why? Why be maybe murdered, injured, and this being contained because you insist on defending the Palestinian rights? Because I'm not a U.S. or Zionist. Zionist is a political party being led now by genocidal maniac Netanyahu. That's the true fact. I don't double-cross a friend. Those Arabs helped the U.S. defeat the Nazis in that desert area, but the goddamned Netanyahu Zionist, genocidal expert maniacs are trying to get him out or genocide him out, because that's what they want. They have double-crossed those who helped them defeat the Nazis. That don't mean anything. They will double-cross anybody, including the USA, that the USA is in bed with them. And they're getting screwed by them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the true fact. They laugh and say, we tell them what to do. Or sure as heck. They're going all out, especially in this next election. In the last election, I think there were 7 sort of finalists for the Democratic Party. And 5 of them, I think, were actually Jewish. And one of them finally, before he was eliminated, said, well, you know, keep me in the race because my mother is Jewish. He had to then admit that. You understand how powerful they're getting? Let's look at the true facts. I always said, well, the Bible is the Bible. But when I studied it, I was quite surprised. There's chit-chat stories, especially if they did something against another group. You have to understand the Jews came from Egypt into the Sinai, were there for 40 years, and then said, hey, we got a better area up here where the indigenous Palestinians live. So we cannot double-cross the Palestinians. That's their indigenous land. They own that land. All of it. The Jews are, through history, yes. And they got along reasonably. In fact, for years, the Jews were a small little community. And those Arabs who have a certain type of Arab, and that's why I may be forced to have a political science with theology, because they're theocracies. I couldn't believe it. The reason they can't maybe win a war is their whole life is on their religion. They get up, they say prayers. At noontime, the whole city rings a bell. They all pray. I says, well, you've got to be building things to defend yourself, otherwise Israel will keep, and Israel does it through hook or crook. I'll mention something and then say what that fact is, even though maybe tangentially is a sort of another little discussion. You have to understand the mentality of the Netanyahu-led Zionists. It's not religion. It's their political agenda of taking over, or if not genociding, what they want. That's the state of the world. They shot the leader who was going to sign. Yeah, there's 2 Palestinian states just before he was going to sign. True fact. Then they said, hey, you can't shoot the next one, you know. Besides Preacher Doc, others will say it's obvious. They have here a system of murdering and lying, murdering, taking over. They have the forked tongue of the devil. And you look at I said the Bible, the Old Testament is stories where the devil has, where it's a sinner is why the person can't walk or talk or hear or see. Yeah, they had an evil spirit, is what the power of their temple synagogue said, and that's what it was. And what? And what did Christ say? He said those people who don't believe in him as the only Son of God and in their divinity are not of God. I repeat that with emphasis. He said they are not of God, that they say they're chosen people. Who chose them? They chose themselves. Every nation in their history book says they are the chosen people of that area that they live in. With the Jews, they didn't own the area, they settled there. Now they say it's theirs because they're the chosen people. Who chose them? They did. Let's look at these chosen people that are led by genocide Netanyahu. They practiced that the devil, God, that the devil took and went against a person because they were a sinner, and that's why they couldn't walk or talk or hear or see. That's what they practiced. At the power, you could only go there and buy like 2 doves or something, then they forgive your sin. And if you didn't do what they said, they kicked you out of the temple. Isn't that what they did with the man born blind, that Christ gave him sight? And the man says, never in the history of the world has a man born blind been given sight, but I was given sight, and I can't deny that. But they kicked him out of the temple because they didn't want Christ. They didn't want to become Christ believers, Christians. Christ says they are not of God. Then who are they of? Well, they practice the devil and the sinners. And where is this devil? Where? The only place I know of for sure is that he appeared among the Jewish there, among the Jewish tribes there. Isn't that a true fact? To tempt Christ. So as far as I know, the Jews are where the devil chose. They are the chosen people of the devil. That's a true fact. I cannot change that. I will not change that. And I will not double-cross a Palestinian because they are the indigenous people. They fought the Nazis and those goddamn condemned from a point of theology. Netanyahu leaders of genocide have to take and sign no nuclear weapons and live in peace. and the Palestinians are the land there, and the nation, and they are guests and live with them. That's the true facts. Thank you.